We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you is Monday, April 20th here in Seoul. I'm Isujin, and this is News Generation. Joining us today is Ki.
Happy Monday!
Happy Monday! And also Ki's with us.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming in. And both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. So we're at the start of a brand new work week, and what better way to kick things off than by talking about something we all think about noon and maybe even before then, which is lunch. So with lunchflation still hitting hard these days, even a single meal can feel like a splurge. So prices keep creeping up, portions don't always follow, and suddenly your quick lunch break starts to come with a bit of financial stress. So it raises a very real question for all of us. So how much is too much in your opinion when it comes to a single meal?
So before we start, the big question of the day. What are you gonna have for lunch?
Probably the cafeteria, the company cafeteria.
Down here?
Yeah.
How about you?
I'm thinking of having lunch with you, Ki.
Right, great. So for me, for quite a while, lunch should be around 10,000 won. Well, right now it's about $7, roughly $10 at a time. Then I could have gotten a good meal back then, but nowadays it's almost impossible. You have to pay at least 13,000 to 15,000 or even 18,000 to get a decent meal, which is about $15. Sometimes even a cup of coffee costs more than 10,000. Around my neighborhood, there's a good Korean restaurant, buffet style, where you pay only about 9,000 won, and they serve pretty good food. The side dish changes every day, and it turns into a pub at night. And for me, if you end up paying more than 20,000 won for lunch, I would say that's a bit too much. I sometimes bring my own lunch box or even pack my own dinner, the leftover from the day before. I just meal prep.
I like how you point out that buffets, because I used to love them.
Yeah.
When we go on reports, those places are actually, it's buffets, so you think it'd be expensive, but they're really not.
They're actually good.
They have pretty decent Korean food as well. So what about you, Q?
For me, my lunch price threshold will be the minimum hourly wage, which is 10,032 Korean won, roughly $7 for this year in Korea. However, right now it's very difficult, like Keith just mentioned, it's to find a lunch menu that is actually below the 10,000 won mark. And for most full-time workers, lunchtime is quite limited and there's no time to waste, especially if they have to line up to a restaurant where there's a long queue. Now, if I do end up spending, let's say, around 15,000 won for a lunch, which I could have a very, very hearty, fulfilling meal with that amount, I would tend to reduce the amount I spend for dinner by actually cooking at home or having something really super light to balance out my bank balance. Now, only a couple of years ago, I didn't really think about the price. All I chose was the menu. But nowadays, I tend to look at the price before I choose the menu, which makes me feel very sad. But I think this is something that everyone actually feels, not just in Korea, but across the world, due to all these conflicts happening. So I do hope the war ends very quickly.
And this is why I will be eating the cafeteria later today.
Smart choice.
We might be joining you.
So all this really shows how much things have shifted. Even lunch is now tied to an hourly wage calculation. And I think what's striking is that it's no longer just about what you feel like eating, but what you can realistically afford within your time and budget. And that's why we're going to talk more about this. But first, let's take a look at the screen. With the cost of just about everything, from oil and plastics to everyday meals, on the rise, more people are looking for smart ways to cut back. And now, one digital platform is gaining attention for doing exactly that, helping users find affordable lunch spots at a time when even a simple meal can feel expensive. Today on News Generation, we take a closer look at the rise of maps that highlight affordable restaurants, how much prices have really gone up, and how Korea's lunch culture has changed compared to the past as a result. Just as we saw in a video, finding an affordable lunch has almost become a daily mission for many workers. But now that mission is getting a digital upgrade with crowdsourced tools. So let's take a closer look at this growing trend. So have you heard of maps for more affordable restaurants? Like, what is this?
Yes, of course. This map runs entirely on user submission. People contribute names of the restaurants, menu items, and prices, along with the practical details you actually want to know before you go, like whether it's cash only, lunch only pricing, or if solo dining is welcome. Actually started in the States too. In the States, they had a similar one with Google. It started out as a tool mainly for job seekers and young professionals, but now even middle-aged consumers looking to cut down on lunch costs just like me are jumping in. As of April 12th, the platform has reached a cumulative 940,000 users. I've tried it myself recently and I was getting a bit tired of the company cafeteria. Don't get me wrong, I love them. Basement in this very structure. So I searched around this area and interestingly enough, the Arirang TV cafeteria is actually on the list.
Wow, I
So
see.
for external visitor, just letting you know, it's priced at around 6,500 won, which is roughly about $5, which is quite reasonable compared to other spots in this Seochogu district. So in the end, it really confirms one thing. The company cafeteria is still one of the best value for options out there.
So that's actually a pretty useful, especially with more people actively searching for value, and it really shows how even small savings at lunch are starting to matter more. So Ki and I kind of talked about this, but Ki, how often do you use the company cafeteria?
So when I used to work at Arirang on a daily basis, I would actually begin my shift having lunch at the cafeteria, and I really look forward to it every day. But nowadays I have differing work shifts on a weekly basis. So if I do have the chance, I would actually go downstairs to match the time and have lunch. And I'll always kind of bump into Suji.
Oh, I do see you quite often, yeah.
But you know, with humans, sometimes you want to have something you really want to eat.
Yeah.
It's true.
You want to have the choice of the menus. So I would actually go outside and have something really nice that I want to have and end up spending a little too much, which would be around, like I said before, 15,000 won for a really nice meal, but usually over 10,000 won, which is already twice the amount of what costs.
Which means dinner will probably be lighter for you that
Exactly.
day.
Yeah, I have to be frugal for dinner. So if we take a look at the screen, speaking of prices, according to NHN Payco, a South Korean fintech company, the cost of a single meal for office workers in major Seoul metropolitan business districts ranges from 11,000 won to 14,000 won, with most meals already exceeding 11,000 won. Now, if you see on the graph, Seocho, which is where Arirang is located, the average lunch price would cost you around 13,000 won, which is so expensive. It's already over the minimum hourly wage. So I think, you know, eating at cafeteria could be the smarter, I guess, more convenient option. And as a result, more people are actually turning to cheaper alternatives other than cafes by going to convenience stores to purchase kimbap or lunch boxes or even cup noodles, because even kimbap, which was a quick meal for many office workers, now costs an average of 3,800 won, marking a 7.4% increase from the previous year, which is becoming a growing financial burden for even office workers. So, you know, even myself, if I have to go really frugal, I would head to the convenience store to buy one of those affordable lunch boxes with cup noodles. But let me tell you, if you have this every day, you're not going to be feeling that good.
Right. And it's also not
the
that
healthiest
filling.
choice, to be
that's
honest.
True. Right. So all this highlights how much prices have gone up across the board, and beyond just cost, we're also seeing changes in how people approach lunch itself. So how has lunch culture itself changed compared to previous years, Ki?
Sure. So in the past, it was quite common for colleagues to head out for the lunch together, like just what we are doing right now. Often paid with a company car or picked up by a senior team member, especially those with titles. But these days, the pattern is clearly shifting. More people are choosing to handle lunch on their own terms, quickly and independently. Many restaurants offer one-person tables. So if you take a look at the screen now, according to OpenEat, about 29% of employees under the age of 25 say they regularly eat lunch alone. 22% of those aged between 25 to 34 said they eat alone. Then it drops significantly. 16% for aged 35 to 49, and only 12% for those 50s or older. And lunch breaks themselves are getting noticeably shorter. 2 decades ago, the average lunch break was at least 60 minutes or 90 minutes, but now it's 45% of office workers spend less than 30 minutes on lunch. So it really highlights a broader shift. People are prioritizing efficiency over fully enjoying that midday break.
So that is a big shift from social relaxed meals to something much quicker and more individual. And it ties into a broader mindset we're seeing, especially among the younger generation. So why do you think this smart saving culture is gaining so much traction, Kyun?
These days, this culture of saving money and time is increasingly seen as something rational and even smart. The so-called frugal tech, or 짠테크 in Korean, is a trend of reducing unnecessary spending while only making meaningful expenditure. So saving money is no longer seen as something that is to be embarrassed about. Instead, people actually actively seek new information, share it with others, and contribute to a positive community-driven culture to find which restaurant, as you can see on the screen, sells their lunch menus below the 10,000 won mark. Now, it's also notable to see that for some small business owners, they view this trend very positively as it allows them to attract customers through competitive pricing and word of mouth alone, instead of relying on expensive or like paying too much fee on delivery fees and marketing costs. So it's actually helping the people and the small business owners. It's becoming a win-win situation. So I guess this is one trend that we're seeing become prominent here in Korea.
So it's becoming less about cutting back and more about making intentional choices. And in that sense, even something as simple as lunch is starting to reflect a much bigger change in how people spend, save, and connect. And that's why we wanted to hear directly from our viewers. So we ran a poll on the Arirang News YouTube channel asking which factors mattered most when choosing lunch. So here's what the results showed. So taste comes out on top with 38% saying this matters the most. Price falls at 25%, showing that cost is still a key consideration, especially amid rising food prices. And health is also seeing a growing priority at 20%, while convenience ranks slightly lower at 17%. So what stands out here is that taste still takes a top spot despite rising prices, showing that people aren't quite ready to compromise on enjoyment. And to gain a more personal perspective, we're going to speak with an office worker from a different country. That conversation is coming up right after break, so don't go anywhere.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search out channel Arirang News. Click Posts and cast your vote in the poll. Make a new type of news with us.
Joining us today is Mary, who, as an office worker in the U.S., is experiencing firsthand how rising lunch prices are affecting everyday routines. So hello, Mary. Thank you so much for connecting with us today.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, Mary. So how expensive is lunch in the U.S. and these days, and what do you usually do for lunch?
It's gotten very expensive, and I live in Los Angeles, which I think probably has some of the most expensive everything in the United States. So lunch here, you're not going to get anything for under $15. I would say a lot of days, even 20 to 25 is pretty standard if you go to your restaurant and you actually want to sit down and have lunch. My office doesn't have any sort of cafeteria or anything you could really get in the office. We do have an option where if you have to work through lunch, the company will buy you lunch, and it's just a delivery service and they'll bring in whatever you order. And I believe our cap on that is $20 per person. So that's a nice option if you have to work through lunch. But if you're going out for yourself, $15 to $20 is what you can expect to spend. And that's kind of like an okay lunch. That's not even like the best lunch you're ever going to get.
Yeah, last time I was in LA a couple of years ago, I was ordering the Chinese food and I was being greedy. I ended up paying $28 for lunch. So have your priorities have changed when choosing a lunch menu over the course of time?
Yeah, the last 5 or 6 years especially, and also LA is a driving culture. So there are only so many places you can walk, which means you're getting in the car, you're spending gas, you're going to be using up gas, which is over $6 a gallon here right now. So you really have to think about how much all of that is going to be. Your other option is, my office has a really nice like snack area. If you want to just forego lunch altogether and have a protein bar and a bag of chips, that is an option. Maybe not the best option. And people do bring food from home. That has become far more common. People will make enough food for dinner that they have leftovers, like specifically to bring for lunch the next day. And we've also lost a lot of restaurants since COVID. A lot of restaurants shut down during COVID, never came back. So there are vacant places everywhere, which just further reduces your options. So there's a lot that goes into it. I normally go to lunch with my colleagues, and we still have a pretty good system where the senior colleagues will put it on the company card. So those are the days we go to a nicer restaurant or a sit-down restaurant. Yeah.
Mary, a quick question for you. Do you pack your own lunch?
I do.
Every now
A
and
lot of the
then?
time I do. Yeah.
Okay.
We're also able to work from home 2 days a week, which helps a lot, just saving money in general. You don't have to drive, you don't have to spend money on food.
Lucky you.
So that's really convenient. Yeah.
Okay, so my last question for you is, what are some unique lunch trends or traditions among younger people in the US these days?
I do think people are eating alone more often. I'm a millennial, and so it's my Gen Z coworkers who are sort of that like one level younger than me, who tend to stay in the office or not eat lunch at all, or just like go for a walk and then come back to the office and have a protein bar, grab a bag of chips. We also do a lot of something I think is specific to LA. It doesn't rain almost ever. So if it does rain, our office will bring in food so that people don't have to get in the car, go out and drive, get soaking wet. That's really nice, and everybody takes advantage of that when that happens. We have birthday traditions. If it's somebody's birthday, you kind of get to pick where you want to eat lunch, and it gets paid for, and everybody who goes has their lunch paid for. That's really nice. If we could have a birthday every day of the year, that would be ideal.
Well, it does sound nice that you guys have like an office tradition where you guys all like, kind of do something special for birthdays at least.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like high lunch prices are hitting people, I guess, wherever you are. Because we're feeling that in Korea as well. Yeah.
You're lucky if you can find a restaurant that can still get you like a decent lunch for like $12 or $13. Like you've hit the jackpot.
That's very real. All right, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today, Mary.
Of course, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we just heard from an office worker in the US about how lunch prices are these days, how our priorities have shifted when choosing meals, and the unique lunch trends among younger generations. It really shows that this isn't just a local issue, but part of a broader global shift in how people eat and spend. So to wrap up our discussion today, what are your final thoughts, Key, on rising lunch prices and the changing, I guess, lunch culture?
So at the end of the day, lunch isn't just a meal, it's a reset button. So it's where you recharge, refuel, and gather the energy to get through the rest of the afternoon. And there's even a running joke. The first and most important task a day when you get to work is deciding what to eat for lunch.
The best task.
Right, exactly, the best task. It's also quite intriguing, right? It's also a key social touch point, one of the easiest way to connect with colleagues and build rapport outside the formal structure of work. So as rising prices start to reshape these habits, simply there's a sense that of a regret in that shift. But with that said, I do respect how the younger generation is approaching this more thoughtfully, finding ways to save money and make smarter choices, even for someone like me who believes good food is one of the life's greatest pleasure, signaling good food. But there's definitely something to learn there. And life feels increasingly packed these days, every hour accounted for. So if anything, lunch should remain that brief but meaningful pause in the day, a moment to breathe, reset, and step away from diving back into the fierce reality.
Wow, that's true. So lunch really is more than just a meal. It's a moment to pause in an otherwise packed day. And it's interesting and kind of sad how rising prices are starting to take away not just affordability, but also that sense of connection and breathing room. So how do you feel about this, Q?
For me, one thing that I noticed that is that many affordable lunches aren't the most healthy ones.
It's true.
And trying to save money on food, in turn, you can kind of harm your health as well if eaten on a daily basis for a long period of time. Now, on the flip side, ironically, salad menus, especially here in Korea, actually cost like sometimes more than a normal meal or lunch menu. So I'm thinking, wow, to stay healthy, have a well-balanced meal, you need to make more money, spend more money on food. So I'm like, okay, well, it could be a source of motivation for me to work harder to have a more balanced meal. But like just what Keith said, lunch should be a meal where it's something everyone should look forward to. It should be enjoyable, and it should be a time to recharge during the day, so you can fight through the day until dinner time for many office workers as well. And once it becomes a source of stress, and it's something where you have to think too much about in terms of price, menu, like where to go, I think it takes away the fun in everyday life. Food is what keeps us going, what keeps us alive. So whether you eat alone or in a group, or whether you take 30 minutes or even an hour, it should be considered something that it should be a time for you to energize and feel good about yourself. And one thing I would like to mention in Korea is that we have this culture of asking the same question, 밥은 먹었어? 밥 먹었니? Like, have you eaten? We just say it out of like pure care and like affection, not really wanting to know whether that person has eaten or not, but that's how much we care about whether the other person has eaten or not. But nowadays, many young people, like what Mary just said, even in the States, younger people don't tend to eat at all.
Right.
They just have snacks or
Go out for a
protein
walk,
bars, or
get a
go for
protein bar,
or just eat alone. But I think going back a bit more and just having that communal sense of belonging, eating together as a group, I think it creates more meaning. It's fine to eat alone, but I think sometimes when you eat with your friends, colleagues, you have so much to talk about, and that meal becomes more meaningful. And I guess you think less about the price if you're with other people, because you can go Dutch.
That is also true. I mean, Ki kind of said that too earlier, and I feel like, because I tend to sometimes eat alone because I eat in the cafeteria, and a lot of people like to eat out. I do feel like sometimes, am I missing out on like a way to bond with other people? So that is a very real thing. So lunch may be getting more expensive, but it's also pushing people to be more mindful and creative with how they eat. From sharing tips to finding smarter, budget-friendly options, a new kind of lunch culture is emerging. And in that sense, even a simple meal is becoming a chance to adapt, connect, and make more intentional choices. And that brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation. But News Gen will be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time with more stories and discussions. Big thanks to Ki.
Thank you
for coming in, and also Hyun.
Always a pleasure.
And to our viewers, thanks so much for watching. Hopefully your lunch day is worth every won or dollar. We are News Generation.